Mr. Right here, and this is the second film of me walking you through IGCSE questions on parallel lines and perpendicular lines. You can find the questions by hitting the link in the description. This film is questions 7 to 11 of the document in the download. If you find it useful, please hit like. Any questions, leave them in the comments. And of course, if you do want to see more of this content, then subscribe to the channel. Right, let's get on with the maths. Question 7. Okay, I've got to find an equation of the line which is parallel to this line and which passes through 0, 4. Now it's parallel to this line, so I really need to find the gradient out of this line. So to find the gradient, I'm going to copy down the equation of the line here, and I'm going to rearrange this to make y the subject. I'll start by subtracting 2 from both sides. Now I'll add 3 to both sides, and now I'll divide both sides by 2. Now I can read off that the gradient of that line is 3 over 2. Now I need to find the equation of a line that's parallel to this one, so my line will have a gradient of 3 over 2 as well, and it goes through the point 0, 4, so the y-intercept is 4. So that means that the equation of the line which I'm looking for is y equals 3 over 2x plus 4. And that is question 7 done. Let's look at question 8. Find the equation of a line parallel to this one, which passes through this point. Well, again, I need to know the gradient of that line. So I'm going to rearrange that, subtract 2y from both sides. Subtract 2x from both sides. Leaves me with 5y is minus 2x plus 10. Divide both sides by 5. Tells you that y is equal to minus 2/5 of x plus 2. So now I know the gradient of my line here is minus 2/5. So I've got to find the equation of a line which is parallel to that one. So my line will have a gradient of minus 2/5 as well, the same gradient. And it passes through 0, minus 3. 0 along minus 3. There you are. The y-intercept is minus 3, isn't it? So my line must have an equation of y equals minus 2/5 x minus 3. Right, question 9. Find the equation of a line perpendicular to this one, which passes through 0, 7. Let's first of all find out the gradient of the line in the question. Divide everything by 5. Y equals 2/5 of x minus 4 over 5. Good. So my line here, the line in the question, has a gradient of 2/5. Now the line that I need to find the equation of is perpendicular to that. So it will have a gradient of the negative reciprocal of 2/5, minus 5 over 2, and it passes through 0, 7. So it has a y-intercept of 7. So the line which I'm looking for here is y is minus 5 over 2x plus 7. And that is number 9 complete. Question 10. Right, here are the equations of 5 straight lines, okay? 2 of the lines are parallel. Write down the 2 parallel lines. So I'm looking for the 2 lines which have the same gradient. So I really need to work out the gradient of each of these lines. Well, line A has a gradient of 2. I can simply read that off because it's y equals 2x. Line B, to find the gradient, I'd have to divide both sides here by 2, wouldn't I, to make y the subject. So I'd end up with half an x. C, here we are, I'd need to divide everything by 4 to make y the subject, which would give me a coefficient of x of 3 over 4, 3/4. So that's the gradient of line C. Line D. Right, here's line D. I've got to divide everything by 2. So the coefficient of x would be 4 divided by 2 would be 2. Okay, and line E. I don't think I need to worry about line E anymore, but still, let's do it. To make y the subject, I'd need to divide by 3, so the coefficient of the x would be 2 over 3, so it would have a gradient of 2/3. Now I'm looking for the two lines which are parallel, so I'm looking for two lines which have the same gradient. So of course my answer is line A and line D, as they both have a gradient of 2. Question 11. Right, here are the equations of 5 straight lines. Okay. 2 of these lines are perpendicular. Write down the 2 perpendicular lines. So I need to find out the gradient of each of these lines. And then I'll look for 2 lines which are perpendicular. So line A, if I make y the subject of line A, then it's going to be y equals minusing 3x from both sides. So line A would have a gradient of minus 3. Line B, if I want to make y the subject here, I divide by 2, so the coefficient on x would be a half, so line B has a gradient of a half. Line C, well, to make y the subject, I subtract 2x from both sides, so I would have y equals minus 2x plus 3, so the coefficient of the x would be minus 2, so the gradient of line C is minus 2. Line D, I can just read off the gradient straight away there, it's 4. And line E, if I divide both sides by 2, then the coefficient on x would be 1. So line E has a gradient of 1. Right, now I'm looking for 2 perpendicular lines. So I'm looking at my gradients here, and I'm looking for which pair of gradients multiply to minus 1. Or I'm looking at the gradients and seeing whether I can pair them up, one being the negative reciprocal of the other. And indeed I can, because B and C, look at that, a half times minus 2, that multiplies to minus 1, and we know the gradient of 2 perpendicular lines multiplies to minus 1. Or if you start with one of them, then the gradient of the other is the negative reciprocal. So my 2 lines which are perpendicular are lines B and C. And that is question 11 done. Well done for making your way through to the end of that film. We're going to move on in question set 3 to more difficult IGCSE questions on perpendicular lines and parallel lines. So to be sure to stay with it and continue now to set 3. In the meantime, of course, if you found this film useful, go on, hit like and give me some positive feedback.